Tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit of my Olympic experience and just some of the hurdles that I had to overcome to get to where I got to. And there was two significant hurdles I had to go through, and spread over a period of 3.5 years. So the first hurdle I had to overcome was back in 2008. And 2008 I qualified for the Beijing Games as a young kid, 21, going in there a little wet behind the ears and a little aggressive in the way I approached my lead up into the trials, but I went for it and luckily enough qualified for the team. We went into Beijing and went in a little early, 3 weeks before we raced, which I think was quite a big mistake looking back at it, dealing with the humidity and the heat and the pollution and a 45-minute commute on a public bus to and from our village where we stayed. So it was a bit of a mission just to get the training. We did that twice a day, which isn't the most ideal way of leading into the games. Had a bad heat and then had a bad semi. And overall, our result was 10th at the Games. And you'd say 10th at the Olympics is pretty good, but the disappointing fact about 10th is that there's only 10 boats that go to the Olympic Games. So, yeah. So luckily for me, it happened at an early age, and I matured quite quickly for an athlete, and I learnt from those mistakes. And one of the worst things was watching that final was that the crew that won at the Beijing Games, Belarus, and Italy, who came fourth at the Games. Belarus won the World Cup we got second at, and Italy got third. So we were in between first and fourth at the last World Cup. So and our last World Cup showed we were on the money. So it's really bitter pill to swallow. But looking back on it, it was a really good thing for me to experience. Like, no one ever wants to experience the biggest failure in their careers at such a young age. But I did, and I consider myself, it was unlucky but lucky to experience that, because I matured as an athlete and I learnt. And one thing I liked when I went into London, I was not afraid to lose. 2011 was the next serious season for us in the K4, and everyone says this, like, the year before the Games in kayaking is the hardest year because all the teams go there, want to qualify for the Games. So we had roughly 30 K4s. They're racing the World Championships, and only 10 can go, and they all qualify at that previous World Championship. So it's incredibly hard, and the hardest race is always the semi-final because 3 crews go through. And in that semi-final at the World Championships, we had the current world record holders, the previous world champions, and the previous Olympic champions. And we ended up winning the semi-final by a boat length. So it gave us great confidence. Went into the final, came second. It was the best result Australia's ever had in the K4 at a major event, and just got picked by the Germans for the World Championship and the world record, which we did break the previous world record by a second, but they broke it by a second and a half. So, and like true Aussies, we're glad to be underdogs going into London. My second biggest hurdle I came across, and it's probably the biggest one I'll ever face in my career, is that, and it also taught me not to tempt with fate. 5 weeks out from the Games, from the trials, I come down with the flu. And naturally it was the man flu. I come back training, we do a little camp in Penrith, and I'm just not right. We're doing some trials and I'm barely finishing, nearly having a heart attack after the races, struggling to breathe. And the guys are finishing and they're recovered in 2 minutes. I'm recovered in 15 minutes. This is roughly around 3 weeks out from the first trial now. Called our team doctor and he says, oh, I'll send you to a private hospital, get a heavy dose of antibiotics. And I finally meet a doctor that knows what he's talking about. And he says, well, they're classic symptoms of glandular fever. And I was just like, I didn't know what glandular fever was, but I knew it's not good. One of the most sobering experiences of my life, thinking, if I've got glandular fever, I'm out. There I was, like, on my deathbed in March, rocking up to the London Games in the best condition I can possibly be after having nearly 2 months off from the sport in March and April, and then at the London Olympic Games, I had so much confidence in the fact that I overcame that hurdle, and I'm still there. I'm the guy who's racing at 2 events for Australia at the Games. And I got the best results out of Australia, and funnily enough, I got the best results out of any male competitor at the Olympic Games for canoeing, first and fourth. That's my story. I hope you've got something out of it, myself overcoming experience, but never losing confidence in myself of what I can and what I can't do. And that's what made the difference for myself, is I believed that I knew I was always going to be able to do that, always going to be able to win gold. And I never took my eye off it, and that's what I achieved. So thank you.